Wait, niche is the right way to say it. It's niche. It's a French word. It's not. There's nothing like at niche. That sounds like you're from Moranga. My niche. It's my niche.
It must be niche.
All right, welcome everyone to Spot the Difference, episode 2, where we speak all matters sports, talking about policy, governance, highlights, what have you, everything that we like to hear about sports. So welcome, my name is Njoroge, I'm your host.
And my name is Dr. Buit, your co-host.
Yeah, so I think it's hard for us to move away from rugby because rugby right now is hot and it's in the highlights, and that's what we're currently enjoying. So the good news is, let's start with good news. Good news is KRFU received, or the Rugby Union, Kenya Rugby Union received 50 acres at Kasarani to develop a high-performance center. And for me, I know it's a good step in the right direction. And it will help us in terms of developing our main teams. But do you think that is the best way or the only way in how to develop the sport? How do you think we can develop the sport, especially from the grassroots?
So I think with the investing heavily in a physical structure, we are putting the cart before the horse. We have not yet ingrained a culture of sport in Kenya.
A culture of sports. Can you expound on that?
What I mean about a culture of sports is just giving an example. Waking up on a Saturday, waking up your kids, telling them to put on their jersey for their county or for their home team, going, celebrating them after having a party, celebration of the team successing or losing. That's where a culture is born, and that's why we need to start.
I get you. And the way I see it is that, and from my understanding is that success in sports, it comes from the culture. The culture drives it. The community drives it. It should be a community-based thing where you find that certain communities come together, they play the sport, it's ingrained in the family. From when you're a kid, your dad supports, for example, Queens. So from when you're a young kid, you're a Queens fan, right? So as you're growing up, you're aspiring to play for Queens. You're attending games. Your family is expending money on those games. So how do we build that culture in Kenya? How do we get towards that point?
So I think instead of investing heavily in infrastructure to start with, I'm not saying infrastructure is not important. It is. I think the money should be spread to make sure that the game spreads.
To the
grassroots, setting up facilities, small, not very elaborate and expensive, small facilities where kids, adults, and teams can train, get good coaches in there, get programs running. Because even us, if you look at our current facilities that we already have, they're only utilized during major games.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, they lie dormant. Why not spread it to the rest of the...
Spread the resources to the communities. Yeah, I totally agree because I was lucky to travel to Australia at some point, and what I found was those places, it's littered with pitches. Everywhere you go, every school, every community, every neighborhood, there's pitches for football, rugby, basketball, what have you. So at any given time, guys can do a pickup touch rugby game. And this is now, it's not exclusive to people who are doing professional rugby. So you find that kids are playing touch rugby from a young age. By the time they're getting into contact rugby, they know the basics, the fundamentals of the game. So for us, I was of the opinion that I think the national government, through the Ministry of Sports, should work together with counties. And this thing of counties that we have, it's a beautiful thing. It is the decentralization of development, isn't it? So at the same as we're decentralizing governance of the state, why not move towards decentralizing how sports is developed? For me, the example I would give is having county leagues, not just county professional leagues, but counties semi-professional leagues and county leagues for schools and for children. For example, For example, you come from Wasingishu.
Yeah.
I come from Kiambu. If we had a Kiambu rugby team and a Wasingishu rugby team, wouldn't you spend your time? Wouldn't you find a connection, that cultural community connection to it, and attend those games on weekends?
For sure.
Sure.
Every weekend, wake up, wear my Wasingishu
Jazzy, yeah. Wasingishu, it's county number. Wasingishu is county number. I haven't been up, but in Kiambu. Anyway,
Yeah.
I think you see what I'm saying. Having that identity, having a way of identifying with that team. This is my team from when you're a young kid. You go to the UK, you look at people who are, I'll use an example, maybe Leicester Rugby. These are people from Leicester City. They're the ones who built the team. They built the team. They now, from the success of that team, from the community coming in and gathering those resources, they build the team. Then the team builds the stadium, and at the same time, it's happening in another city, right? So I think we have an opportunity, especially the county environment. If we do that, I think we'll go along.
Yeah, because we first create a culture, sports, empower the community, the stadiums will come. And what COVID taught us was that if your resources are held up in infrastructure,
Yeah.
it's hard to scale. So why can't we apply the same concept in sports, where we are not so heavily reliant on infrastructure and saying this high performance center is make or break, where all talent is going to be developed,
Yeah.
and allow it to seep into the grassroots.
Yeah.
And of course, eventually having a high performance center is inevitable, but we can't start from there.
Yeah. And I think we were talking about how Fiji did such an exemplary job beating Australia, as in the development of Fiji has come despite the fact that they're a country of less than 1 million in population, maybe about 900,000. And they've gotten to this level. How can you justify them going to a World Cup and doing so well?
Community, and also sports culture and community. So when it's ingrained, when you're waking up in the morning, that's what you see. Sleeping at night, the posters of your
Favorite players.
players. And it doesn't require such a huge population. And in Kenya, since the talent pool is so deep,
Yeah, and I think that's a painful point. The talent, the quality of rugby players we have in this country is unbelievable. And I think it will only take a little bit of forward thinking, having a strategic plan. I think like Japan had a very concise strategic plan, a 10-year plan, and you look how their rugby has developed to the point where it has gotten. And for me, what I would like to say that, like, for Fiji, when you talk about culture, these guys, what they do is they fish, they go to mass, and they play rugby. So for us, I think we have that opportunity. The opportunity is always there, and it doesn't take much for us to get there. But I think the decentralization of resources and spreading to the grassroots, that'll be the key.
that will be the main key. And also, if you've also recently seen NBA signed an MOU.
Yeah.
And what I love about that concept, they were talking about building infrastructure, but they started off with point number 1, which is let's educate teachers and certify them.
Yeah.
So once you've educated 100 teachers to become basketball coaches,
The ground, yeah.
100 programs around.
Yeah. Just to expound on that, now the NBA recently signed an MOU with our government to develop basketball in Kenya, and they have a 3-point plan, right? Number 1 is to train teachers. This is through schools, communities, and neighborhoods. So to spread the game to the schools, to the communities, to the neighborhoods, train the teachers. I would imagine, let's say, for example, I don't know, Mr. Mwangi in primary.
Yeah.
Just regular teachers, but on top of what they know, they have that, they're stacked with that knowledge of basketball, and they can disseminate it to their students. So that's the first point, action point, is to train teachers and coaches at the grassroots level, which coincides with building of the infrastructure, which means building courts in communities and neighborhoods. And that's the only way, because once these kids start playing from a young age, you develop that sports IQ, your muscle memory, by the time you're getting older, you're better prepared to become a professional. And the third point, the third action plan is to set up an office in Nairobi, an NBA office in Nairobi. So kudos to the ministry. That's such a big step in the development of basketball here. And we were saying I think that model can work in any other sport, right?
Exactly. So instead of first saying we need 10 stadiums in Kenya, can't we implement a similar structure for all sports?
For all sports.
Educate coaches, number one. Number two, set up the minimum viable product, which is a court, a field,
a
pool, not something, sort of behemoth of a structure that will just hemorrhage money. And then, as I said, take it to the grassroots and make sure everyone is playing.
Yeah.
But there's one other thing that I keep encouraging again, is even before we start these ventures, we normally start ventures by expecting we know what's on the ground.
Yeah.
No one has collected data on sports. There's no research being done, finding out what is the problem that we have, what can we do.
Exactly.
So that's what I would suggest is point number one that precedes first even educating coaches. It's just doing a national-wide study, doing a database like we had talked about last year, that can allow us now to even structure. So when we're saying we are teaching coaches, which coaches, where are they, which teachers, so that we can actually map out the entire Kenya, where they're saying they want to build basketball. Can they just start by renovating the already existing great basketball courts? Like the other day I was passing, I don't know if it's called Kakuzi. There's a teachers' college there that has fantastic facilities.
Yeah.
That can serve the entire Kiambu region without having to come again and setting up. And it has never, I pass there sometimes on Saturdays, I pass there on Sundays, and there's no activity going on. So why now go build an entirely new structure and say this is going to be a center of excellence? Is not normally a facility. I've seen it in South Africa, where I was lucky enough to go and train at a high-performance swimming program. At the time, it was an academy run by one of the greatest coaches. And it's just like a pool like we have here at Public Service Club. Nothing extravagant. And guys have gone to Olympics.
Okay, so basically here, what I'm getting from what you're saying is that it's not just the infrastructure, but the programs that are being developed. Because you'll find that, yes, the facility is there, but what program is happening there? And that program coincides with access, because these things need to be accessible. You'll drive around, pitches are empty, they're all empty. So if you want these things to be utilized fully, create programs, small tournaments, inviting the community to come, make sure guys are always playing. And I think that's the level we'll go to. And just to add on that point of data, the MOU signed with NBA has also committed to training local people to become scouts. Now, that ties in with the data aspect, because if these guys are scouts, they are the ones identifying talent out there in the grassroots all over the country. And once they identify talent, the best ones are the ones now who can come to the big infrastructure that we're talking about. So this infrastructure, these sporting centers, centers of excellence, they're not just used by the same people, the people who are exposed. Rather, it will be a point where all the work in the grassroots comes and meets at the top. So we have guys from Elgeyo Marakwet, guys from Mandera. If you're good enough, you've been scouted through these programs, that's when you're sent down to Nairobi and you can enjoy this facility.
Yeah, and what has happened currently, if you're looking at the Kenya Academy of Sports and Talanta Highlight Initiative, that's what they're looking at doing. That's what they're proposing. However, they started the other way around. They started off by setting up a very big structure in Kasarani. And instead, I feel that money should have first trickled out, ensure it's spread out, different locations, different facilities at a low cost. And then as that comes together, we now come and create the larger structure.
Okay, but I think that also ties with how our government is structured, because you have 5 years? That's if you're not voted out. You have 5 years to implement it. So I think even the view from the leadership is that we need a thing that is visible that says, look at us. This is what we did for sports here. But at the same time, if I was in that position, if I was in the position of leadership in this government, and I was asked, how do you want us to approach the Talanta Hela initiative? Honestly, I would say that in every county, every ministry of sports in every county, a Talanta Hela office. Now that Talanta Hela office has its auspices, it has its mandate and its resources. So that office within each county is the one that would go out looking at which community needs what, where is it lacking in infrastructure, how can we plug in. Then everyone from that region is plugged into that office of Talanta Hela. So that office of Talanta Hela will go back to the ministry, and the ministry will have a database saying, look, from Kiambu County, these are the top performing basketball players, these are the top players, these are their stats. Now, these guys are the ones who are called to work at the Center of Excellence. But unfortunately, I'm not. I can only express my opinion. And
what I was also thinking, when you look at a leader, what are the traits of a leader? The traits of a leader is you have to be selfless. What usually happens is that the reason sports programs are not working is because they're not tangible. You cannot see them.
Yeah.
Like if a Babu creates a great network of coaches, a great network of programs that are running at the grassroots levels, no one can see. But they're. However, a physical structure like the Ulinzi Sports Complex,
which is barely used.
People will be like, wow, this is so beautiful. You've done some great work. But in the background, there's actually nothing. There's zero impact in having. So leaders sometimes, as much as, of course, they need votes later, put structures, put programs that will outlive, put structures that are sustainable. And the problem in sports, it takes 8 years to 10 years to make a champion.
Exactly. And that's the thing, because if one government comes in with their own policies and then, I don't know, at some point, the CS is changed, it becomes someone else, the policies change, the framework changes, it's not congruent. And I think even, and a good point to that is our Kenya Sevens team. Kudos, shout out, congratulations to our Sevens team for Kenya Sevens team for qualifying for Olympics. That'll be fantastic. And that Wambua, former Mwamba coach, is running the show now. He's a young coach. He generally picked young guys. What would you attribute that successful first outing to?
So I've actually luckily been able to interact with Wambua, and he's a very good tactician. And he knows the game, and he understands the needs of the country. You know, what has been happening is we've been outsourcing. How can you outsource our talent to someone from a different country to come and manage us?
Who doesn't know?
Who doesn't understand the intricacies of what our players are going through, our infrastructure, our politics, our issues with the union. Wambua understands all of it. He's grown up in Kenya. He's played. He has coached. So he understands all the intricacies, and he's very technical and tactically knowledgeable.
Okay.
So having someone like that, I'm actually a huge believer that we can actually do it here in Kenya. We have some very amazing coaches. Like Namkos. Namkos was fantastic, however, replaced by an international coach. And I think we need to also start cultivating and believing in ourselves. And goes back to that pillar of, if we can get as many coaches to be educated, sports will grow organically. We will even not need for stadiums, because the money will be so much that we won't even have a place to now put a stadium, because sports programs are running everywhere in Kenya.
And we don't have to be promised all the time, a stadium. We can build it ourselves as a community. We don't need the government to do it for us. If we have programs, clubs doing a good job, and they're making people attracted to their product, which is the rugby they're playing. Guys are coming to the stadium, spending their money, buying jerseys, donating whichever it is. So if we head that way, I think we'll make a lot of progress. And just to add on what you've said about coaching, our coaching teams being local, why invest in a foreigner who's being paid thousands of dollars when you can take that money? Look at the guys who are coming through, guys who are retiring from rugby, from whichever sport. They're retiring, have a good coaching program. A program where these guys, instead of looking for foreigners to come in to coach our teams, why don't we take our guys, our coaches, we take them out to be trained by the best. Then they come back with that knowledge and implement it.
In fact, in in swimming, we are having a debate about, a lot of our swimmers, what happens is that they reach a peak in Kenya
Yeah.
where our coaches' level of knowledge is where we're basically reached. So they send their kids abroad to South Africa for camps.
Yeah.
What we can do is possibly invite one coach. Because if one coach is invited to Kenya, it can impact 30,
40 coaches.
50 coaches.
Yes.
Or alternatively, that will be some very knowledgeable coaches, someone like Paul Odera,
Yeah.
running a camp or clinic for 200-300 coaches.
Yeah.
The impact is immense. Or alternatively, sending one of our best coaches abroad,
Yeah.
getting the knowledge, and he can come back and
Come back
impact
and
thousands.
Exactly. And I think you said it right. Believing in ourselves more.
Yeah.
It doesn't it applies also to our football. Our football coach, our new coach, I forget his name, but he's also a foreigner. And I looked at his record. This guy has, I wouldn't call it abysmal, but he's barely won anything. So why do we go out and get someone who was barely successful out there to come and coach our guys? Is it a mental block? Is it a mental is it an inferiority complex? I don't understand.
So even what I've realized is you need to ask yourself that question. Why is that coach coming to Kenya? It means because they're not one of the better coaches in their country. So they're coming here because possibly they're not very good coaches back home. So they come look for opportunities in developed countries.
Developing countries,
to try and flex their muscle. Then they can get paid very well.
Very well.
So they get paid double what
better than the local coaches would be paid.
Exactly. So I think believing in ourselves, running education programs would come a long way into that same thing we're discussing, instead of investing in that huge, enormous structure that's going to cost us 50 million, 100 million, even just with 30, 40 million.
Yeah.
The kind of impact we could have by educating the coaches, expanding, doing basic renovations of facilities that are already existing.
Yeah.
Because why reinvent the wheel and come up with a new structure? And I can tell you, I've driven around Kenya and there's
so many structures not being utilized.
So what that means is, not as a part of the data collection being done, is the government partnering with private or public institutions, like that technical college.
Yeah.
I work at Kenyatta University, and I can tell you for a fact, we have amazing facilities. Our graduation square, which is also our basket, can host almost 10 basketball.
Yeah.
Our rugby football fields, we have a tartan track. No programs running.
No programs.
Zero programs.
Yeah, I think that's at the core of it. We need more people out there playing all the time. I think from a young age, basically, if we can wrap up this podcast and say, for us to develop, yes, we need high-end, high-performance facilities. But what is most needed is inculcating a culture of sports. Make guys love the game at a young age. And then it becomes a family affair. I really envy how in developed countries, guys go out. When it's game day, the whole family, from shosho, auntie, your mom, your sisters, all of you are going to watch your preferred team that you're connected to. So, yeah, we can applaud the government for what they're doing, but as you heard it from us here at Spot the Difference, it's community-based. Let's see how we can come together, bring down the sports to the people, make it enjoyable, and see how we can fund it ourselves and build it ourselves. And eventually, our quality will shine through. At some point, we'll be, hopefully, the next World Cup. I mean, we can't just be missing all the World Cups by a couple of points. So yeah, I think that's a lovely conversation. Thank you, guys. That has been Spot the Difference. We will see you guys next time. Cheers.